So, hello everyone, Dr. Avalos here, and I'm going to talk to you about chapter questions and everything you need to know to answer them successfully. If you've taken my class before, you know that I have chapter questions in almost every module. If you haven't, look at the syllabus and then look on Canvas. You'll be able to see very quickly where I have chapter questions. Now, the chapter questions that I ask will tell me a little bit about what you know. But what I'd like to do in this video is to talk to you a little bit about why do we use chapter questions? How do I pick the content in the chapter questions? What do I expect in an answer? How do we grade them? And then one of your classmates has graciously given me permission to use her assignment to show you a very good example of how to organize and what to include in a chapter questions assignments. Okay, so the first thing, why do I use chapter questions? So state and national requirements, as well as interest, as well as student input, etc., guide what we talk about in a face-to-face setting. There is a certain amount of material or content within each chapter that you must have and that your faculty know we must cover and assess learning in. A lot of times in a face-to-face class, we can do this through discussion. I can make sure that the content is in the PowerPoint, or I can make sure to ask the question, what do y'all think about this, sort of a thing. And then I can assess learning at a variety of different levels in the way and discussions that we have. First of all, I know when you don't know what's going on because you don't have just the basic knowledge or facts kind of answer. I can ask you a little bit about what that means, and you can explain in your own words what it means. And then sometimes I'll ask you, well, then what does that mean if I have a client that does this or this, and then what does that mean? In an effort to help you apply the information. But we're not in a face-to-face class. So what I've done is I will have developed the chapter questions so that I can assess all those three areas on the content that is the most important for you to obtain in the particular chapter that you're reading. So let's talk a little bit about what all of that includes. So like I just said, it is very hard to pick the topics of the chapter questions. So the way I do this is to make sure to look at the standards. That yes, there is so much to be interested in and so much to know, but what are those key themes and areas that can answer a broader sense of content than it would if it were just like a multiple choice question. So that helps kind of pick, what am I looking for in these chapter questions? The same thing that I would look for in our conversations that we would have in a face-to-face course. First, I want to know if you know the facts. To do that, you go to the research. It is important to know that in the field of counseling, as I've talked to you all in theory courses, etc., you base the work that you do, the methods that you use, on empirical, what has been researched and deemed to be successful. And we have to remember that we'll have people, family members included, who will come and ask your opinion. It's really easy to pop off about what you know just because you're a human being, but recognize that will not necessarily match up with what is truth based on research, based on findings. So your textbooks, if you go look at the back, you're going to see a lot of references because basically what the authors have done have pulled the research together and they're in the context of a textbook. So how do I know what the textbook says, so show me that you know by citing the author. This is not common knowledge, so look for it within the chapter and give me the facts. But that's only one portion of answering a chapter question. I consider that to be an undergrad type of format that we would get. Like, does the person know the facts? To bump this up to a graduate school type answer, you need two additional components. You have the facts. The next component is, can you tell me about what does that mean in your own words? So basically, you know the facts. Do you know what they mean? Do you know what they're saying? I have found over many years of teaching that if I can teach it in the way that I speak, I know it. So I am forcing you to not repeat exactly what the textbook says and the research says, but to explain it in your own words. When I needed to, especially when I got to grad school and was taking exams, I knew I needed I knew I needed to be able to teach it. So I would call my mom on the phone and explain, Mom, would you like to know about the circulatory system of the brain? She would say yes, and I would tell her about it. If I could speak and talk about it, even using my own language, then I could get it. I knew that I had it. And this is that next step method of explaining it in your own words. The third component of the chapter questions, in order to be complete, will be the application. So, you've got the facts, you can say it in your words, but can you use it with people? Have you seen it happen in the real world already? Sometimes we'll have experiences, then we'll read content in an article or a textbook and go, oh my gosh, that totally makes sense now. Or it gives you a different perspective that maybe you haven't looked at the situation before. So that's the part I'm looking for. Yes, you need to be able to know the content because you need to pass your exam. Yes, I need to be able to understand your comprehension level of the material. But you also have to apply it to people. And so that third component is asking you, then what would this look like? And so I give you the option of telling me about a situation in which this has happened to you before, or developing a situation to say, if a client came in and this, and this, using this information, this would be the next step. So that's that application piece. Going through that particular process actually helps you move the information to long-term memory. If you can think of it as this, if you read a textbook and you go through it and then you realize 2 pages in you have no idea what you remembered, well, you can go back and write down the facts. But it's not until you can explain it to your classmates in a study group and then use it on a client, students in the classroom, etc., that you really become more comfortable in using it. So I'm going to ask you for those 3 areas, and that's going to give me the graduate school answer that you deserve. So make sure that when you use your facts, you cite them. The information you're learning, even if it sounds like it resonates because it's life and it's people, must come from research. And the reason that I make you cite the information is the text so that you will get used to answering questions, not just off the cuff, but in a way that reflects understanding that holds little bias and inaccuracies, because my life is just mine. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to apply my world and my perspective to my clients and what might be best for them in their situation, their value system, etc. So let me show you a little bit about the rubric that I give to y'all. A lot of people don't look at it, but I would like to show you what it looks like. So give me a second so I can switch over and show you.